The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dusty training ground. The air was thick with heat and the sharp scent of gunpowder. Soldiers gathered in small groups, their voices loud and filled with amusement. Their laughter echoed across the camp as they looked toward the edge of the field, where a lone figure stood steady and unmoving. She was the newest recruit, barely 20 years old. Yet there was something in her calm demeanor that made the others glance her way with mixed feelings of curiosity and doubt. Her rifle was unlike any the others carried. It was old-fashioned, heavy with worn wood, and a scope that looked ancient, a relic from a past era. The men whispered among themselves, mocking the outdated gear. They called it her antique scope and laughed openly at what they believed was a useless burden. She caught their laughter, but said nothing. Her eyes never left the distant horizon. Her posture was relaxed yet alert, as if she was waiting for something only she could sense. The sergeant walked by, shaking his head, unable to hide a small smile. The others asked him if the young girl really thought she could compete with the modern snipers with their sleek weapons and advanced optics. He just shrugged and said sometimes skill matters more than gadgets, but no one took him seriously. Yet the girl remained focused, calm, breathing steady as she checked the tightness of her rifle sling and adjusted the old scope to her liking. She had trained for years. In silence far away from the noisy barracks, she had learned patience, watching the wind, the birds, and the distant hills. Every detail mattered, and every moment was practice for what might come. She remembered the stories her grandfather told her about the warriors who used such scopes to make impossible shots in battles long past. The weight of that legacy rested on her shoulders, but it did not crush her. Instead, it made her stronger. The sun climbed higher, and the camp grew louder around. The mess tent soldiers joked about the upcoming drills, some boasting they would outshoot the girl with their new equipment. Her silence was mistaken for weakness, but in reality she was studying everything, the way the enemy might move, the angles of the hills and the faint trails left in the dust. A few of the older soldiers felt a strange respect. They saw in her something different, a quiet confidence not born from arrogance, but from deep knowledge and experience despite her young age. Still, they kept their opinions to themselves, afraid to break the mood of the younger men who were having fun at her expense as the time for the shooting exercise approached. The commanders gathered. Their eyes flicked between the modern rifles and the lone sniper with the antique scope. The general frowned but said nothing, preferring to wait and see what would happen. A few officers whispered bets among themselves quietly, doubting that an old scope could make any difference in a field dominated by cutting-edge technology. The girl tightened her grip on her rifle, feeling the cool metal beneath her fingers. The wind whispered secrets in her ear, and she listened carefully. She raised the rifle slowly, aiming toward the distant hill where the first targets would appear. Her heart beat steady like a drum, counting down the moments before action. Around her, the soldiers still joked. The tension had not yet settled, but something was about to change. Something old was about to challenge the new. The mocking laughter would soon be silenced by a sound far sharper than any words. Could an antique scope truly make the difference? No one could guess the storm that was coming. Her eyes narrowed, focusing on a single spot miles away. The sun glinted off the metal barrel of an enemy artillery piece, barely visible but unmistakable. She adjusted her aim and held her breath. The camp held its collective breath, waiting for what was next. Not a single soul could imagine the shot that would soon change everything. The alarm shattered the stillness of the camp, its piercing sound cutting through the laughter and chatter like a blade. The soldiers snapped to attention, scrambling to their positions, their previous amusement replaced by sudden tension. The distant rumble of artillery fire echoed across the valley, signaling the arrival of the enemy. The ground seemed to tremble with each heavy explosion as smoke billowed from the far ridge. Amid the chaos, the young sniper stood motionless, her eyes sharp and unblinking, scanning the horizon through the lens of her antique scope. The camp erupted in frantic activity, but she remained calm, her breathing steady, as if time itself had slowed around her. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, adjusting the scope to compensate for distance, wind, and elevation. Every detail mattered, each breath. Each heartbeat was measured. The officers barked orders, their voices hoarse from urgency, but no one questioned the strange calm that surrounded the sniper. It was as if she was in a different world, a place where only the target and the shot existed. The artillery continued its relentless pounding, the enemy firing from a hidden position 2 miles away, their shells screaming through the air towards the camp. The sniper's gaze locked onto the faint glint of metal beneath the smoke, a silhouette barely visible, yet unmistakable. It was the enemy artillery crew preparing for another devastating barrage. Her mind raced, calculating trajectory, wind, speed, and bullet drop. She knew this shot had to be perfect. One missed bullet could cost lives. Around her, the soldiers watched with growing disbelief. Some had started to doubt her abilities, but now those doubts wavered. Their eyes followed her movements, the way she handled the old rifle with a mastery that no new gadget could replicate. Whispers spread through the ranks, questioning their own earlier mockery. The sniper steadied her aim, the antique scope magnifying the target with uncanny clarity. The crosshairs settled on the barrel of the enemy artillery piece. The camp held its breath, waiting for the crack of the shot. Suddenly, the rifle barked, cutting through the air, and a single bullet flew with deadly intent. The silence after the shot was deafening. Then a distant explosion shattered the quiet smoke, and debris erupted from the enemy position. The artillery was hit, destroyed in an instant. The soldiers stared in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Their mocking laughter turned into shocked awe. The sniper did not celebrate. She quickly readied for another shot, scanning for new threats. The enemy scrambled to find their attacker firing blindly into the hills, but the sniper's focus never wavered. Her eyes tracked every movement, waiting for the perfect moment. The camp began to realize this was no ordinary recruit, but a warrior born for moments like these. The commanding officers rushed forward, their faces a mix of disbelief and newfound respect. They barked rapid orders, repositioning troops and calling for reinforcements. Their confidence had been shaken by the sniper's unexpected success. The tide of battle was beginning to turn, and all eyes were on the girl with the antique scope. The enemy fired again, their shells screaming through the sky, but the sniper was already on her next target. Her steady hands and unyielding focus marked each shot with lethal precision. The camp watched breathless as one by one the enemy artillery pieces fell silent. Her skill was rewriting the story of the battle before their eyes. As the sun dipped lower, the battlefield grew quiet. The sniper lowered her rifle for the first time, her eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of movement. Camp erupted into cheers, finally understanding the power of skill over technology. The antique scope gleamed in the fading light, a symbol of a warrior's spirit that refused to be broken. The battlefield lay shrouded in a smoky haze, the acrid smell of gunpowder thick in the air. The soldiers moved cautiously, eyes scanning every shadow, searching for any sign of the enemy. The sniper remained steady, her breath, even her gaze, locked. Through the antique scope on the distant ridge, where the enemy artillery had once roared to life, but now lay silent and smoking. Her fingers gripped the rifle with a quiet confidence born from years of practice and hardship. The ancient scope seemed to come alive in her hands, revealing details invisible to the naked eye. The faint outline of enemy soldiers began to emerge, moving quickly, trying to regroup and reload. The sniper knew this was her chance to strike again, to prevent the enemy from regaining their deadly advantage. Around her, the camp was tense, waiting for her next move. The men who had once laughed now whispered in awe. Their eyes followed her every motion, the way she adjusted her aim. the way her body remained perfectly still, despite the chaos surrounding her. Some wondered silently how one person could hold the fate of so many on her shoulders. She breathed deeply, calming her racing heart. The wind shifted slightly, carrying the distant sounds of the enemy. Their voices, muffled but clear enough to reveal panic and confusion, the sniper narrowed her eyes, focusing on a single target, a commander trying to rally the troops. Her mind calculated angles and distance, the variables dancing in her thoughts like a silent symphony. The shot came without warning, a sharp crack echoing across the valley. The commander dropped instantly, a red bloom staining the dusty ground. The enemy faltered, chaos spreading as their leadership was cut down in an instant. The sniper prepared quickly for her next target, eyes never leaving the scope. Her fingers moved with the precision of a surgeon, steady and unyielding. From the ridge came frantic calls, orders shouted in a language foreign to the camp. The enemy scrambled, desperate to find the sniper who was dismantling their forces one by one. The soldiers watching felt a mix of fear and admiration. Her shots were not just accurate but devastating, turning the tide of battle with each pull of the trigger. Suddenly movement caught her eye, a group of enemy soldiers attempting to flank the camp. They moved quickly through the underbrush, unaware of the silent watcher above. The sniper shifted her aim, carefully calculating lead and drop. The bullet flew true, and one by one, the flanking soldiers fell before they could reach the lines. The camp roared in approval, their cheers mingling with the sounds of battle. The young sniper had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that courage and skill could defy even the most advanced technology. The officers looked on their faces, a mix of relief and disbelief, knowing that the battle was far from over, but grateful for the warrior who had turned the tide. As dusk settled, the sniper finally lowered her rifle, her eyes scanning the horizon for any last threats. The smoke began to clear, revealing the battered but victorious camp. The soldiers gathered around her, their earlier mockery replaced by respect and admiration. They asked questions, eager to understand the girl with the antique scope and the remarkable skill she wielded. The sniper smiled quietly, her mind already preparing for whatever came next. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. She knew that every shot mattered and every moment counted. The antique scope in her hands was not just a tool, but a legacy, a connection to those who had fought and won battles long before her time. The camp settled for the night, but the story of the girl with the antique scope was only just beginning. Her legend would grow, whispered among soldiers and told in hushed tones around campfires, a warrior who had silenced the enemy artillery from 2 miles away, a symbol of precision, patience, and unwavering courage. The morning light crept slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the battered camp. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and sweat. Soldiers moved with a tired but determined energy. Their eyes kept drifting toward the young sniper, who had become the center of attention. Overnight, the camp had transformed from a place of mockery to one of quiet reverence. The antique scope that once sparked laughter now gleamed like a badge of honor in the hands of its bearer. She sat alone, on a rocky outcrop, her rifle resting lightly against her shoulder. Her gaze was distant, thoughtful, as if searching beyond the battlefield, beyond the immediate victory. The camp buzzed with whispered conversations about the impossible shots she had made and the skill that had saved countless lives. Yet she remained calm, distant, focused on the next challenge, waiting patiently for orders. The commanding officers approached cautiously, their expressions mixed with respect and curiosity. They knew her actions had changed the course of the battle, but questions remained about who she really was and what had prepared her for such precision and poise. The sniper met their gaze steady and unwavering. No hint of arrogance, only quiet strength orders. Came down for a reconnaissance mission to locate remaining enemy positions. The sniper was chosen without debate, the obvious choice to provide cover and precision fire. Her heart steadied as she prepared for the next phase of the fight. This was her moment to prove that the antique scope was more than a relic. It was a weapon of unmatched power in the hands of a true warrior. She moved silently through the rugged terrain, using every ounce of her training to remain unseen. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the distant sounds of enemy movement. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every rustle in the grass. The scope revealed secrets hidden to the untrained eye, the faint glimmer of a rifle barrel, the slight movement of a concealed soldier. Suddenly, her scope caught the flash of a muzzle flare, a sniper taking aim from a ridge far beyond the usual range. Her pulse quickened. This was a threat unlike any before, but she did not flinch. Instead, she adjusted her aim, calculating the trajectory, the wind and distance. Her finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. The shot cracked through the morning air like a thunderclap. The enemy sniper dropped instantly before a single shot could reach her position. The camp breathed a collective sigh of relief. The young sniper had once again saved them from unseen death. Her reputation grew with every heartbeat as the reconnaissance mission continued. She spotted another threat, a group of enemy soldiers attempting to set up an ambush. The scope revealed their hidden movement, their careful coordination. She relayed the information to the commanders, who quickly repositioned their troops, preventing a deadly surprise. The sniper's eyes never left the battlefield. Every detail etched into her mind. The tension in the camp remained high, knowing the enemy was still dangerous and determined. But the sniper's presence brought a newfound confidence. Soldiers who had once doubted now found courage in her skill. Her shots were a promise that no one would face the enemy alone, that precision and patience could turn the tide even in the darkest moments. The sun climbed higher, the heat growing oppressive, but she remained vigilant. Her rifle, a steady companion. Her antique scope, a bridge between past and present. Each successful shot was a testament to years of training, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will. The battlefield was a stage, and she was its silent guardian. As the day wore on, the enemy began to retreat, their forces broken and scattered. The camp prepared to press forward, their morale renewed by the sniper who had silenced the artillery and saved countless lives. The antique scope gleamed in the sun, a symbol not just of old technology, but of unwavering skill and heart. That night around the campfire, stories were told of the girl with the antique scope, her legend spreading like wildfire among the soldiers who knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. A warrior who had turned the tide with calm eyes and steady hands. A reminder that sometimes the greatest weapon is not the newest, but the one wielded with unmatched mastery. The morning air was crisp and cool as the camp stirred to life. Soldiers moved with purpose, the echoes of last night's victory still fresh in their minds. The girl with the antique scope had become a symbol of hope, a beacon that guided them through the darkest hours. But beneath the surface, questions lingered about the woman behind the rifle, her past, and the quiet strength that seemed to flow from her very soul. The commanders gathered in a tent dimly lit by the early sun. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices low as they debated how best to use the sniper's skills. The girl listened from the shadows, her face unreadable, but her mind sharp and calculating. She knew the coming days would test her in ways beyond marksmanship, that the battles ahead would demand more than just perfect shots. Word began to spread among the soldiers, stories of her training, her discipline, and the legacy behind the antique scope. The weapon was not merely an old relic, but a family heirloom passed down through generations of warriors, each adding their own strength and skill to its history. The scope carried with it the weight of sacrifice and honor, a silent witness to battles fought long before. The girl remembered her grandfather's voice, steady and proud as he taught her how to aim, how to breathe, how to become one with the rifle. He had told her that the true power of a warrior came not from the tools, but from the heart and mind that wielded them. She had carried those lessons. Deep inside, through long nights of training and quiet moments of doubt, the camp prepared for a critical mission to break the enemy's hold on a nearby ridge, a fortified position that had stalled their advance for weeks. The commanders knew this would be a turning point, and they placed their faith in the sniper to provide cover and intelligence. Her role was clear, but the pressure was immense. The fate of many rested on her shoulders as the team moved out under the cover of dawn. The sniper stayed back, observing through her scope, watching every movement, every shadow. Her eyes caught a flicker of motion far beyond the ridge, a small group of enemy soldiers preparing to ambush. The information she relayed saved lives that day, preventing disaster and giving her comrades the advantage they needed. Throughout the mission, her calm presence was a steady anchor in the chaos. Each shot she fired was precise and deliberate, eliminating threats before they could strike. Her skill was unmatched, a blend of instinct, training, and unwavering focus. The antique scope was no longer a source of ridicule, but a testament to her mastery and the legacy she carried. At one point, the sniper found herself face to face with an enemy marksman, their eyes locked through opposing scopes. A silent battle of wills began, the wind, the distance, and the shifting light, all playing a part in the deadly dance. The girl steadied her breath and squeezed the trigger, ending the standoff with a single shot. That echoed across the ridge. The camp rallied around her as the mission succeeded, their morale soaring. The commanders praised her publicly, acknowledging that her courage and skill had turned the tide. They asked questions about her background, about the path that led her here, but she remained guarded, sharing only what was necessary. The mystery of the girl with the antique scope only deepened. As the sun set, the camp settled into a cautious peace. The sniper sat alone, reflecting on the battles, won and those yet to come. The weight of her legacy was heavy, but it fueled her determination. She knew that every shot was more than just a bullet. It was a promise to those who fought beside her, a vow to never let skill or courage be underestimated. The night was filled with quiet whispers, stories of the sniper who silenced artillery from 2 miles away and faced down enemy marksmen with calm resolve. Her legend grew, with each telling a reminder that true warriors were forged not by the latest technology but by heart, spirit, and unyielding will. The antique scope gleamed in the firelight, a symbol of that enduring truth. The dawn broke slowly over the horizon, casting a soft golden light across the camp. The air was filled with a quiet anticipation as soldiers prepared for what many hoped would be the final push against the enemy. The girl with the antique scope stood apart from the bustle, her rifle slung across her back, her eyes scanning the distant hills where the next battle would unfold. The weight of her legacy felt heavier today, but so did her resolve. The camp had changed since she arrived. No longer the place of laughter and doubt, it was now a place of respect and silent admiration. The soldiers looked to her not just as a sharpshooter, but as a symbol of something greater, a reminder that strength came from skill, determination, and an unbreakable spirit, rather than the newest technology or loudest boast. The antique scope gleamed quietly in the morning light, a testament to that truth. Orders came quickly, the final assault was underway. The enemy was desperate, their lines stretched thin and their morale broken. The sniper moved with practiced grace through the rocky terrain, her every step careful, calculated. A fierce calm surrounded her as she settled into position, scanning for threats. Her scope revealed the enemy's desperate attempts to regroup and fire their remaining weapons. The shots began again, one after another, precise, deadly, each bullet finding its mark with a silent promise of protection. The enemy faltered, unable to withstand the relentless precision that rained down. Upon them, the camp surged forward, soldiers inspired by the sniper's unwavering courage and skill, their momentum unstoppable, fueled by hope and the knowledge that victory was within reach. The girl with the antique scope was everywhere and nowhere, her presence felt but rarely seen. She eliminated threats that could have shattered the advancing troops, preventing ambushes and picking off enemy commanders. Her focus was unbreakable, her mind sharp as the battle raged around her. Every shot was a calculated strike, a thread weaving together the fragile fabric of the assault. Suddenly a shout rang out, a call for help from a squad pinned down by enemy fire. The sniper did not hesitate, her eyes locked on the danger. A cluster of enemy soldiers. Moving to encircle the squad, she adjusted her aim quickly, calculating distance, wind, and cover. The rifle barked twice. The enemy fell one by one before they could close in. The pinned squad broke free, rallying with renewed strength. The tide of battle had turned completely. The enemy began to retreat, their lines collapsing under the combined force of the camp and the sniper's lethal precision. As the last shots echoed, the girl lowered her rifle, her body weary but unbroken. The soldiers cheered, their voices rising in triumph, their respect for her deeper than ever. The commanders approached her with gratitude and honor in their eyes. They spoke of medals and commendations, but she shook her head, refusing the spotlight. Her fight was not for recognition, but for the lives of those who fought beside her. The antique scope was a symbol of all she stood for, a legacy of warriors who had come before and those who would follow. As the sun set, the camp celebrated the hard-won victory stories. Of the girl with the antique scope spread far and wide, tales of her impossible shots, her calm under fire, and the unwavering spirit that had carried her through battle. The laughter that once mocked was replaced by cheers and reverence. The sniper sat quietly by the fire, her eyes reflecting the flames and the countless lives her courage had saved. In the quiet moments, she thought of the battles still ahead, the challenges that would test her resolve and skill. The antique scope rested gently. In her hands, a reminder that the greatest weapon was not the tool, but the warrior who wielded it. She was ready for whatever came next, her heart steady, her aim true, and her spirit unbreakable. The legend of the girl with the antique scope was sealed that day in the hearts of those who witnessed her fight. A story of courage, precision, and unyielding determination that would be told for generations to come. A reminder that sometimes the oldest tools carried the greatest power when held by a true warrior.